world is in crisis.
การแก้ไขปัญหาโควิดถือเป็นวาระแห่งชาติ
And people are looking for hope and answers. Thai PBS World is there with you with the best minds of the day. Join us on Thai PBS World tonight, every weekdays at 7 p.m. Thai PBS World, we bring Thailand to the world.
สวัสดีค่ะ Very good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight. This is Thai PBS World Tonight and you are now with me, Natha Gomonwadin.
Good evening, I'm Thep Chai Yong. It's clear that the move to amend the constitution is moving ahead full steam, but it looks like different parties have their own different versions of the constitutional amendment, and we talk about that tonight.
Yes, and to keep you updated with COVID-19, today is two more of people having infection but in state quarantine. One Qatari man who are in treatment of cancer in hospital and a student who returned from India.
All right, tonight we'll begin with the new political hot potato for the Vorayuth government. The insistence by the Royal Thai Navy is that it will go ahead with the plan to buy 2 additional Chinese submarines has triggered widespread criticisms. And it certainly has provided fresh ammunition to protesters who are demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Vorayuth Chan-o-cha. The submarine deal was given a new twist after the opposition Pheu Thai party claimed yesterday that it was invalid. It said the procurement described as government-to-government deal was not signed by proper representatives of the two governments. The revelation came after a sub-house committee narrowly passed the 2.2 billion baht budget requested by the Navy for the submarine purchase after a heated debate. Opposition MPs have strongly objected to the procurement, which also sparked an avalanche of criticisms and ridicule on the social media. Critics question why the country needs to spend a huge amount of money on arms procurement while people are suffering from economic impact from the coronavirus pandemic. The Navy today had to call a press conference to try to justify the submarine deal. Admiral Sithiporn Matkasem said Thailand needs a strong deterrence in the form of modern weapon systems to protect its territorial waters. He pointed out that potential conflicts with neighboring countries over marine resources and territorial claims. Most of these countries, he said, already have submarines in their naval fleets. He said a strong defense will strengthen the country's negotiating power. And he dismissed a claim by Yuttapong Jarasathien, a Pheu Thai party MP and deputy chairman of the subcommittee under the House Committee scrutinizing the budget for the submarine procurement plan. He said that the deal was not a genuine government-to-government agreement as claimed by the Navy. Yuttapong had charged that Navy Commander-in-Chief Admiral Ruchai Rudit, who signed the procurement agreement 2 years ago, had no authority to do so, as he was at the time only Chief of Staff of the Navy, while the Chinese company which countersigned it did not represent the Chinese government. Admiral Sithiporn reaffirmed in the press conference today that the submarine procurement was done under a government-to-government deal which offers favorable terms and special incentives for Thailand. He insisted that the deal was signed by representatives legally authorized by their respective governments. He dismissed the opposition's charges as disinformation intended to tarnish the image of the Navy.
The Vorayuth cabinet approved the deal to buy 3 submarines from China in 2017 with payments to be made in installments over 7 years. However, there have been calls for the government to delay the deal so that money for the submarines would be diverted to help people affected by the impact from the coronavirus pandemic. The Navy, however, insists that it has already delayed payment for the first installments for 1 year and cannot afford a further delay as Thailand's credibility would be at stake. It said more delay would also affect the country's military capability to defend its territorial waters as the first submarine would not be delivered until after 6 years from now. Admiral Sittiporn, the Navy Chief of Staff, declined to answer a reporter's question about news report that the Navy had lobbied some of the members of the subcommittee scrutinizing the submarine deal to approve the budget for it. Protesters who have been rallying against the Vorayuth government have seized on the marine deal to pile more attacks on Prime Minister Vorayuth, who is also Defense Minister, for giving priority to procuring more arms over addressing economic woes facing the people. Even Ong Aat Klam-Phaiboon, a deputy leader of the Democrat Party, a major partner in the Vorayuth government, also urged the government to reconsider the submarine deal. He said the budget would be better used in helping alleviate people's suffering from the pandemic. Konjatika Wanit, a former finance minister and leader of the newly formed Kla Party, also voiced objection to the deal, saying it is unnecessary as the country is still struggling with the impact from the pandemic.
All right, the committee appointed by Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha to investigate the much publicized hit and run case involving an heir to the Red Bull business empire, Vorayuth Yuvithaya, has yet to wrap up its work. But what the chairman of the committee, Kun Vicham-Hakun, can say right now has certainly put a new spotlight on the case. Kun Vicham said yesterday that Vorayuth's acquittal of hit and run charges was a result of what he described as an orchestrated undertaking. According to Vicha, it involved a complex process that involved figures in the legislative branch, the police force, and the office of the Attorney General. The process, according to Vicha, had one objective, that was to let Vorayuth off the hook. The legislative branch that Vicha was talking about was specifically the House Committee on Laws, Justice and Police Affairs of the National Legislative Assembly under the military rule in 2017. At the time, a lawyer representing the suspect sought the House Committee's intervention. It resulted in a delay in the prosecution process and an introduction of new witnesses who played a crucial role in convincing the public prosecutor to eventually drop the charge against Vorayuth. One of the new witnesses, an engineer, provided his own calculation of the speed of Vorayuth's Ferrari when it hit a motorcycle driven by the police officer in 2012, killing him on the spot. The calculation disputed an earlier estimate by the police forensic expert who investigated the scene of the incident, but it was nevertheless taken as the basis for the charge of hit and run resulting in death against Vorayuth. The charge was subsequently rejected by the public prosecutor, setting Vorayuth free. Vicha said his committee has been trying without success to summon Thanit Buakiao, the lawyer in question, for a testimony. Vicha was speaking to the media after a meeting of his committee on Sunday. He admitted that it was still too early to conclude whether what he sees as the orchestrated undertaking to help Vorayuth violated any laws. We still need to find out if any individuals or organizations can be held responsible for it, he said. More witnesses will be summoned to testify before the committee, which needs additional time to conclude its work. Prime Minister Prayuth gave the Vicha committee 30 days to submit its findings, but Vicha said yesterday that 2 more weeks will be needed.
And Kuntepchai, last week we see how students, especially female students, were very active in voicing their concern on freedom of expression, especially during the meeting with the education minister. And if we take the word from education minister, it means right now school students can have freedom to protest. But all girls school, which is closely linked to the royalty, has chosen to be different. The Rajini school, founded during the reign of King Brahma V over a century ago, has issued an order banning all political activities on the campus. The order was also very specific about prohibiting any offensive references to the monarchy. The order has triggered a heated debate on social media and demonstrates the deep political division in Thai society. Critics see it as a violation of freedom of expression. This morning, a group of the school alumni submitted a letter to the school administration to oppose the order. The letter, signed by 999 alumni, demands that the school allow its students to express their political views in a peaceful manner and without being subject to intimidation or bullying. The alumni also referred to an instruction from the Education Ministry last week for all schools to promote freedom of expression on the campus. The instruction followed a meeting between protesting students and Education Minister Nattapol Thipsuwan at the Education Ministry in Bangkok a day earlier. Rajini School on Friday issued the order banning political activities on its campus, as students at schools across the country were joining the anti-government protests by either flashing a three-finger salute, a symbol of defiance against the authority, or wearing white ribbons. Some schools also saw students make political statements. Rajini School was founded by Queen Sawapha Phongsi, consort of King Chulalongkorn or King Rama V in 1904. The school said in the order that it has always been supported by members of the Chakri dynasty and that it is grateful for their kindness. In its order, the school also threatens to penalize students who violate campus regulations. It also said that parents who are not happy with the status quo can take their children elsewhere.
All right, now let's move to the political front. The Move Forward Party, the reincarnation of the now dissolved Future Vote Party, seems to be breaking ranks with the opposition bloc by demanding a totally new constitution that would essentially clip the power of the Senate and rescind all the executive orders issued by Dimitri since he took power 6 years ago. And it also leaves open the possibility of amending the section dealing with the monarchy. In a message posted on its Facebook, the party said there shouldn't be limitations to what should and should not be included in the new constitution. It also said that only a total revision of the current constitution would open the way for ideas and dreams of every sector in the society to be taken into account. The key proposal of the party is for a so-called People's Constitution Drafting Committee to be set up to write a new constitution. The proposal is modeled after the process through which the Constitution of 1997 was drafted. Back then, representatives from a broad spectrum of the society were elected to sit in an assembly tasked with drafting the Constitution. And the product turned out to be what was considered to be Thailand's most democratic constitution. The party also calls for a total removal of all the power given to the Senate under the current constitution. It includes the power to appoint the Prime Minister. The party also wants to rescind the constitutional clause which ratifies all the executive orders and announcements issued by the National Council for Peace and Order, the official name of the military junta, which seized power. The Move Forward Party has stepped back from joining the opposition bloc in submitting its own version of a constitutional amendment, which basically also calls for a significant rewriting of the charter. However, its proposed amendment will not touch on the sections on the monarchy. The Move Forward Party currently has 54 MPs in the House. It said in the Facebook post that it will need to win over MPs from other opposition parties to support its version of the constitutional amendment. So what is clear, Gunata, is that the constitutional amendment is going to happen. But of course, different parties now seem to have different versions of what kind of amendments they want to see.
Yes. So they will have to work in parallel and using mechanism of the parliament.
Yeah.
But with the split objective, we have to see what the step that they will be taken.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kun Thepchai, right now in the US, President Trump has to declare major disaster because of wildfire in California. And right now, Kun Nat Bunak has this story for us. So it has been going on for about a week now, this wildfire. So what's the latest situation?
We gotta say it's not really a good week for the United States anyway because of the massive wildfires that have ravaged across the state of California. And like you said, it was almost a week now that the wildfires were in place. And so far, the wildfires have burned nearly 1 million acres of land. And if we put it as a location, it would be around 600 fires across the state. And it has burned up to 1,000 homes and buildings. 6 people have died, as well as 40 people have been injured because of this incident here. The severity of the wildfires prompted President Donald Trump to declare a major disaster in California, as well as releasing federal aid. And so far, Governor Gavin Newsom has also requested help from Australia and Canada with the disaster here. And so far, there have been firefighters, fire engines, and surveillance planes coming from other states such as Oregon, New Mexico, and Texas. But what is the issue here based on a few reports? Although the evacuation orders have already been imposed, but the problem is the COVID-19 situation here because the state of California is one of the states that has the highest number of COVID-19 infections. So people, especially the evacuees, have said that they are really afraid to go to the emergency shelters because they're not quite sure with the social distancing measures here. But so far, the shelters are enforcing social distancing rules and mask wearing, and they've also given individual tents to families in order to self-isolate.
Probably wildfire doesn't really help President Trump because he has a major Republican convention this
yes.
week. And also, 2 major storms also happened at about the same time.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate here because there's Hurricane Marco and there's also Tropical Storm Laura, which has hit the Caribbean, and so far it has killed at least 12 people. So 9 people dead in Haiti and another 3 in the Dominican Republic. And because of these 2 storms here, there has been heavy rain, there has been floods as well, which also affected areas in Cuba and the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico here.
But don't underestimate Trump. He can certainly turn bad stories into good news, just for the sake of securing his support base.
So we'll have to see what he's going to say this Thursday, I guess, Thursday night.
Yeah, but he's going to come out every night.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just a piece of information, Hurricane Marco is expected to hit the U.S. state of Louisiana on Monday local time over there, whilst the tropical storm Laura will be hitting Texas by Thursday. But there have also been reports saying that tropical storm Laura might swing east towards Louisiana, and that means if these 2 storms hit Louisiana at the same time, it could be the very first time in recorded history that Louisiana has been hit by 2 back-to-back hurricanes here.
Okay, so that's quite challenging for President Trump this week. Thank you very much, Kun Nat, for this story.
Thank
and
you.
what about development of other stories around the world?
Yep, and just so you know, these are the stories we've also been following.
วันนี้เรามีเคส
Thailand recorded 2 new cases of COVID-19 today, including one Qatari man in hospital for cancer treatment and a Thai student under state quarantine who came back from India. The new cases raised the total number of infections to 3,397, with 1 new recovery and no new fatalities. The opposition Gaogai Party has proposed 3 constitutional amendments without touching the 2 chapters of the current constitution concerning the monarchy and Thai sovereignty. The proposed amendments include the setting up of a constitution drafting assembly to craft a new charter, revocation of sections 269 to 272 to do away with an appointed Senate, and of section 279 to nullify all orders issued by the National Council for Peace and Order, the military junta led by General Vorayuth that staged the coup in 2014. A group of alumni of Rashini School have submitted an open letter to the school's administrators voicing their disagreement with a recent order banning political expression by students on campus. Citing an order from the Education Ministry, the alumni said that Rashini School should be a venue where its students can freely express their views, and they should ensure their protection against all forms of intimidation. Thailand's export figures for July dropped 11.3% from last year, while imports fell 26.3%. The Ministry of Commerce predicted that Thai exports are expected to increase gradually for the next 5 months, especially farm products and food. However, for the whole year, Thai exports are expected to contract 8 to 9%.
And Khun Thepchai and Khun Nat, crisis of rising temperature seems to be alarming for the world population. Especially if we take a look at ice sheet in Greenland right now, its melting has been occurring at a record rate. So see the story for more details.
The melt last year was vast, even in a decade which has shown a continual loss of ice mass. Melting from an extra warm 2019 was enough to cover California, the third largest U.S. state, in 1.25 meters of water. The study by scientists at the Helmholtz Center for Polar and Marine Research used satellite measurements to measure the issue. They showed 586 billion tons of Greenland's ice melted last year. Lead author Inger Sasken says it's the largest loss on record. The previous record was set in 2012, where it has similar atmospheric conditions leading to the extreme melt in summer. The 2012 record referred to by Sasken saw 511 billion tons of melting ice. The study is published on August 20 this year in the journal Nature, Communications, Earth and Environment.
2017 and 2018 were near balance years for the Greenland ice sheet, which is quite abnormal because in the recent decade we had a mass loss in nearly every year, or we had mass loss actually in every year.
Sasken attributes the fluctuations to a weather system called Greenland blocking. In 2017 and 2018, there was no Greenland blocking. This meant cooler Arctic air flowed from the open ocean into Greenland. Sasken says the melt is too great to reverse.
The glacier calving and discharge is too large to have an ice sheet in balance conditions, which means that even though you might have a year where you have a lot of snowfall and not as much melt, you will still have the mass loss into the ocean through glacier changes. And this is what happened in 2017 and 18. In earlier times, like 30 years ago, years like, or with atmospheric conditions like 2017 and 2018 would have actually produced a mass gain.
Last year's melt added 1.5 millimeters to global sea level rise, according to the study. Professor Martin Sigurd, a glaciologist from Imperial College London, says the study's results have grave consequences for sea level rises.
What happened in 2019 is unprecedented, that a huge amount of material was lost. And when you look at the longer scale picture of ice loss in Greenland, smoothing out those year-to-year variabilities there is a signal where the Greenland ice sheet is increasingly losing more mass.
Another study in the International Journal of Climatology calculates Greenland's coastal regions warmed an average 1.7 degrees Celsius in the summer since 1991. Ziegert says current trends could in future put coastal populations around the world at risk, and the report shouldn't be ignored.
It's not something that we can reverse. We can't reverse the sea level that's already happened. We're locked into that. We can't actually reverse some further sea level that will happen because, as I said, we're locked into at least another half degree of global warming. But what we can do is avoid, say, 4 degrees of warming by this century, which could be disastrous in many ways, but also for sea level, by reducing our carbon dioxide to net zero by around about 2050. So this is an urgent thing. This is something that we absolutely must get a grip on.
In 2017, the United Nations Ocean Conference concluded 40% of the world's population lived within 100 kilometers of the coast, and 10% lived less than 10 meters above the sea level.
And with the rising flow of information nowadays in the digital age, we have been told that we have to be careful and keep checking the fact, especially in the age of disinformation and misinformation. And what will be happening with CoFact platform, which has been set up to have activity of fact-checking. Right now we have คุณสุพิญญากลางนรงค์ co-founder of cofact.org joining us live สวัสดีค่ะ Good evening คุณสุพิญญา
Good evening คุณณัฐา คุณเทพชัยค่ะ everyone ค่ะ Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah. And probably Thai audience still don't quite know the activity of CoFact yet. So can you just tell us again what is CoFact and what has it been doing?
Actually, CoFact is considered social innovation. It's a platform to provide collaborative fact-checking. We learned this model from Taiwan, that in Taiwan there are also many misinformation and disinformation spreading via social media. So in order to counter mis and disinformation, Taiwanese group try to use civic technology to handle that, because the super spreader of the disinformation forwarded or spreaded among social media. So in order to counter that, they have to use social media to counter. So in Taiwan, they created a chatbot that people can copy and paste and checking whether that news or information already verified or not. And it's an open platform that allow everyone to log in and help verifying the fact as well. So literally CoFact so far is a platform. We have chatbot, we have database, we have website, but in order to make it work, we need a community to join our CoFact fact-checking, collaborative fact-checking. So CoFact is a platform, and actually it's a community doing collaborative fact-checking in digital era using technology as a tool to investigate the information.
คุณสุพิญญา are there any particular areas in which you are most concerned about disinformation or fake news?
Actually, Thailand, number one is about health issue. The second one would be the financial literacy, and the third one, of course, is political news. So far, political information would be the significant one that people are concerned because of the conflict. But in general, in Thailand, the figures show that the most forwarded mis and disinformation in Thailand is about health issue, because it keep coming back. The same false information keep coming back, like about something to help you from cancer, or eat or drink something. That's classic one for Thailand. It's keep coming back, and sometimes it prevent people to go to the hospital because they believe in the information they get from their group in social media. And now the worrying issue is about financial one. If you're following what forwarded in Line group or in a closed group, there will be some information convincing people to invest in something or put their personal information in order to get some money or some gift or some present or some trade, which are false. So this is another concern on the financial issue because people want to get something and they believe the information people convince them. And the current one, of course, political issue. But for politics, I believe that an open platform like Twitter or Facebook or other medium should be more faster in verifying fact because it's real time based and sometimes fact is always change. So Twitter or something like Pantip or Facebook may be doing it better. But for CoFact, it may be some information that like a database that people can come and look up later whether that information they see or they receive is false or not, or anyone already verified it or not.
And Kun Supinya, you said that one objective of CoFact is to build up community. So far, what's the size of community in Thailand and how has it counter
if you are on if it's about political issue, if you are on Twitter, you can observe that that's a huge community. They try to verify fact and countering fake news among both sides. But for CoFact, we just started very small and we started with people who concern on health literacy issue. So far, we collaborated with like Thai Health Promotion Foundation that they have some volunteer to help fact checking, and we've been working with some university that they will have students help out in volunteer fact checking and doing some infographic and information. Our main target now would be the senior people that sometimes they believe information forwarded via closed group like Line. Which similar to WhatsApps in other country. And in that Line group, when the senior or parents or teacher or boss forwarded some information which not correct, normally people in the group, they rather not counter it because of the เกรงใจ culture or they don't want to upset the senior one. So in Taiwan, they created chatbot like we have one now, and they have another tool like AI that doing that part when someone sends something in Line group and the member in that group they are not to correct it because they would เกรงใจ or they don't want to upset the other person. So in Taiwan they use chatbot or AI to correct it, but we still don't have a AI yet. We only have chatbot that people can copy information into our chatbot and copy the correct one and share it in their group. So the senior people in the community or in the family somehow they could read the alternative fact rather than the one that they receive or they forward, for example.
As far as the people who spread the fake news or disinformation are concerned, but does CoFact have enough data to trace back to the source of this information? Are they individuals or are they organized groups of people? That, as far as you know so far.
Yes, we did a small research recently. We found something interesting that fake news spread by easily and quickly by super spreader, which means by so-called celebrity or some people who are influential or influencer. So in order to counter that super spreader, we need to have a super corrector. So we got information from Whiteside. Whiteside is a company that doing data analytics. The Whiteside also collaborated with CoFact. They have data tools that search information in the computer in social media, and they can even know where it come from. But some of the information are like exclusive. If we disclose it somehow, people would be upset, but eventually that information, if it's disclosed, people would know more, and it could come from both sides for political issue. But what we got from our survey and our small research that in order to who spreading the fake news the most, consider a super spreader, which mostly are people who well known in the society, like politicians, celebrity, or even influencer. And in order to counter fake news very quickly, we need to rely on those super spreader to turn into super corrector. If they correct it quick enough, that will stop the spread of the fake news. But if they're slow to do it, it will go faster. So that's why, of course, we need individual as a corrector. But if big issue, we need a super corrector to stop the super spreading issues.
And so far from your study, what has attracted people to be super spreader and super corrector?
Most of the disinformation and misinformation, mainly they are too intensive. Sorry, if it's misinformation, people forwarded it without intention. They just believe that it's true, so they just want to share it. This one maybe is easier to handle, but if it's disinformation, there's an incentive behind, either political or commercial. So this one is a bit difficult. So we need to the disinformation one. We need a super corrector to counter the super spreader. But for misinformation, simply maybe they just want to forward because they care about their loved one, or they want them to eat something and to help the issue. So this one maybe we just need a common corrector like in family or community. So it depends. If that this information is come from information operation, or it come from the computational order, or it come from political incentive or commercial incentive that they want to sell some ideology or they want to sell some products. We need to collaborate with them. So that's the most tough part, that how we could do that.
Am I right to assume that the main task of fact is to counter fake news and disinformation, but not to be involved in any attempts to trace or track down sources of this information, so that legal action can be taken against them in the event that this information may cause harm or damage to certain individuals?
Not yet. Hopefully, someone should do that, or hopefully in the long term. Actually, COFAC is a very small project. We want this to be a tool to show that we need to create a new culture, a new culture or new normal, which means everyone should be a fact checker first. Because of course, we could rely on media. We need trusted media, but in this day, that information viral very fast. Sometimes the media also stuck in this conflict and puzzle, or sometimes that fake information keep coming back and media have other issue to verify. So actually you need to rely on yourself to fact check the information. So COFAC ideology now, we want to urge everyone to take care of themselves, not only sure before share, but somehow we want them to do more than that. Sure before share is good enough, but now if you see something that you think is wrong or is not correct, rather than not only not share it, but maybe if you a little bit could help to verify and send the correct information to your friend and family, that would help a lot. That's the main mission for COFAC right now, to start a community to help to be a corrector. But in the long term, if we bigger enough and people interested in us enough, we would like to network with the super corrector as well. But we are humble so far because we not yet go to that far, but we hope to develop to that. And in the long term, if we have capacity to collaborate with other agency, and we could counter the fake the original source, like if we could collaborate with FDA, Food and Drug Administration, that their mission is to counter the original source of false information about health issue. Maybe they need to crack down the maybe factory that doing disinformation just to sell some herbs or some product. That one we need to collaborate with authority. But for the political issue, it's a little bit controversial to verify fact, because sometimes there's no single truth. We hope that to expand open platform that everyone can can help verify the fact, because especially in a deep conflict right now, fact matter most rather than opinion. Actually, if all the media focus on fact and urge everyone to focus on fact, we could reduce conflict like hate speech or misunderstanding in Thai society. But we need that collaborative approach among all stakeholders.
Yeah, we know that dealing with political issues is not easy because it's not something about right or being wrong, right? Sometimes it's about perception and about political belief. So,
Yes.
what is your standard practice in dealing with what you see as disinformation about politics?
First of all, you have to distinguish between fact and opinion first. Sometimes people confuse with opinion and fact, and they fight very hard to defend that truth. But actually, it's just an opinion of the other. Everyone can hold opinion, so you don't have to be upset with everyone else's opinion. But of course, if you fight against fact, that would be a tough job. Sometimes concerning like history, it can have fact and it can have different perspective. So that in that sense, we need to extend not only fact checking, but we need another calm upholding of opinion and tolerance, and what we call right now is empathy, and to prevent hate speech. I think we need for political issue fact matter most, but beyond that, we need to respect each other opinion and try to maintain tolerance and respect to other and to oneself. That would help to find a solution or common ground gradually.
And Kun Suvinya, how do you see practice by Twitter, which has alerted message on President Trump Twitter that they have to check fact? Do you think this is the right direction of platform that they need to be aware and show more responsibility as well?
In my opinion, I rather support that idea, even though some liberal perspective, they don't want platform to intervene. I think 10 years ago, we should not do that. But now I think the platform is too big and they have a power to manipulate the flow of information. So they need more accountability and responsibility. But of course, it should be transparent and it should be collaborative in a way that they allow other civil society or they allow user to intervene in that process. So I agree with that approach by Twitter, and I think Facebook or other open platform should do that as well. But based on transparency, accountability, and collaborative approach by user and stakeholder for whatever they try to moderate something on the platform. But it helped, I think. Yeah.
And on 28th of August, COFACT will have a seminar on fact-checking in the digital age. What's the objective from the seminar that you'd like to achieve?
Of course, we want to introduce COFACT as a social innovation, and we want to introduce our small COFACT community from every region in Thailand, from the north, northeastern, and the south. And we want them to fact check local news as well, because now we are dominated by national news. But actually, for example, flooding in some region, there are some false and true information. So we want our community in local area help us verify local news, and we can put it in our database. And we have many interesting speakers. Most of them are young generation. They're doing fact checking, like from Thai PBS, MCOT, or other individual like Dean Vlog from the deep south of Thailand, that he tried to do fact checking video clips on TikTok or YouTube on scientific issues. I think that all interesting. We want them to share their experience, and we want to inspire everyone that everyone can be a fact checker this day. Not only everyone can be a media, but everyone have a responsibility to be a fact checker and be a corrector to counter spreader. That's the message we want to be speaking out in this coming Friday. And I think all the speakers are interesting to share their experience as a young generation. people who are from like analog era but very experienced in digital era as well.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Kun Supinya, regarding what COFAC is doing and what is your plan on 28th of August.
Very
big good
ขอบคุณค่ะ
success.
very delighted. Thank you so much.
You're
Yes.
doing a great service to the society with your efforts.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you'll be
Thank you.
joining us more on Thai version of Tan Lok.
All right.
Absolutely ค่ะ
Okay.
ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
All right. They do the great service they're doing now for this
Yes.
for the country. I think, but fact checking is certainly it works only when it's become a collective effort. I think
Right.
Kun Supinya and her colleagues are doing a great job, but certainly they alone will not be able to handle this very challenging task.
Yes, because to have fact checking, we need pool of data to really counter disinformation and misinformation. And tonight we'll leave you with the image of First Lady Melania Trump's renovation of the White House before Republican National Convention. And that brings us to the end of Thai PBS World Tonight. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.